Hey guys, back at it again. So to continue on with these healing my past videos, I think that's what I called it, healing my past or something like that. Let's see, get comfortable in here. Yeah. So I left off, I'm a little tired, but I left off with, things were working out with me and, Jen, and we were living together, and, that was interesting, and we were trying to find a place to move to, because where we were staying was so expensive, and she was just like, it's ridiculous. And I was like, yeah. And another thing I want to put in here that's an interesting thing. I think this is an important thing to remember, because this definitely gets lost in the wash. It definitely gets lost in the wash of my memories. So like I said, she was the manager for the Olive Garden restaurant nearby. And was that really what she wanted to do? Was that really what she was passionate about? No, not really. And so we both had those conversations about what are we really passionate about? What do we really want to do with ourselves, with our jobs, with our career? What do we want to do? Like, what are our dreams? What is our dream? What do we want to do? What is this thing? Our sole purpose, right? We believe deeply in the fact that we all had unique purposes, and that we had a calling to fulfill, and that we had gifts that we were supposed to use, and all these things. And so we're trying to figure that out. Well, she figured out what she wanted to do, and she figured out she wanted to go to this institute called Cortiva. Pretty sure it was Cortiva. And it was an institute on how to do massage. And this wasn't just your everyday normal massage. This was this was good, deep cranial sacral massage. Really awesome, deep level, deeply healing, amazing massage, right? She wanted to do that and make a difference and really help people, And so, but she was scared, right? She was scared to follow her dream. And because what was that going to look like? She would have to quit her job, and we were going to move. And how is she going to support herself and her kids? And and this. And I'm kind of a wild card, because I'm kind of like, well, what am I going to do? What's Justin going to do? What's he going to work on? What's he going to accomplish? How is he going to do this or that or whatever? And so when the thing opened up and we had that opening to move into the house that her uncle owned next to her father and stepmother, we went for it. And she quit her job, and it was a big deal. And it was a big accomplishment, actually, because it was a step in the right direction. It was a step in the direction she wanted to go. And that was really cool. And I was inspiring her, or I was encouraging her. Inspire is pretty strong. I was trying to inspire her. I actually think I did inspire her to do it, but at the same time, she inspired me as well. We both encouraged each other. Encourage is a much more normal word to use. Inspire just sounds kind of a little out there, a little bit out there, but we both inspired. We did inspire each other, though. We both inspired each other to accomplish our dreams, leave behind the stuff we don't need, walk away from the pain, walk away from the brokenness, walk away from the monotony, walk away from all these things, leave these things behind, take a step into the future, take a step into our purpose, take a step into the unknown, take a step into becoming who we are meant to be. That was a big deal and a really cool, amazing thing. I'm not gonna lie, I get kind of emotional thinking about that. That was such a significant thing. And so we packed up and had a crazy moving time. And packed everything up and got everything moved. And again, she has 3 children, a teenager and 2 children. And luckily, so the teenager was able to help take care of the little ones too. But she has her own life as well. So we moved to the house. Had a really crazy time. I draw the U-Haul truck, and it was a long drive, and I did some back and forths and this and that, and I had some car trouble with my license and different things with my registration because I was very stubborn moving to Maryland from Reno, and I never got my Maryland plates on my car, and I waited until I got pulled over so stubbornly, and they took my Nevada tags, so my car was grounded, and I had to go through the whole process of getting registration, and it was such a nightmare. And so we had to get all of that worked out. And so what was I going to do for work when we got out there? Well, I was going to work for Aldi's grocery store, because I had grocery store experience, and so kind of went through and got that all set up. And in the process of moving there, we had a lot of back and forth going from where we were to where we were going. And that was a lot. It was very, very taxing because it was such a long drive. And it was just draining. It was very, very draining. So while we were doing a lot of really awesome things that were like helping us take advantage of the opportunity to become more, it was also a very massive struggle to do so. We were doing it though. We were getting there. And I got Reiki certified. I got certified how to do Reiki, and so did she. And that was really cool. And I just thought, wow, this is going to be so amazing. We're going to be able to do Reiki on each other. Reiki is like a form of, it's like an energy healing modality. It's like Japanese style. It's interesting because the church discourages against energy healers, and I can understand why. If not to a whole extent, to at least a certain extent, but I can understand why. But it's it kind of becomes its own thing. It can get a little crazy. But and now she's going to Cortiva Institute. She's taking her classes there. She's doing her training for this program to be certified. She's doing it, and it's hard work, but she's doing it, right? She's doing it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, bro. You're doing great. This is amazing. You're doing it, right? You're doing it. So we finally moved there, right, into this big house, and it was definitely haunted. How about that, right? How about that? Finally get there and it's haunted. And it was funny because she was very intuitive. She could just pick up on things ahead of time. And she was usually right, even though I didn't want her to be most of the time. Many times I didn't want her to be right. And she was definitely right a lot of times. Not all the time, of course, but she was right a lot of times. And she was talking about, we did a little research on the house before, and we looked into about how the person who lived there before was the Pardo family. And the husband died, and then the wife lived there, and then the wife died in the kitchen. The wife actually died in the house, in the kitchen. Not to scare you guys. Don't worry, this isn't going to be too scary. I promise it's not too scary. It does involve seeing a ghost, but I promise you it's not too scary. But anyway, yeah, so we move into this house, and the first night we stay there, we're all sleeping on the floor because we don't have everything set up yet. And we all just wanted to be together, so we all sleep on the floor. And I'm telling you, I felt ghostly things. And I did see a ghost. Not that first night, I think, but maybe like a couple nights later or first week. Within the first little while of living there, I definitely saw a ghost. I had gotten up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and Jen was still in bed next to me. And the kids were upstairs in their beds, and I am getting ready to go to the bathroom, and I see a lady in a nightgown walking into the kitchen, and I'm like, bro, that ain't one of us, bro. That ain't one of us. What the heck? It was Mrs. Pardo, basically. But yeah, wild. world. Crazy times, crazy times. But anyway, ghost sighting, red alert, ghost sighting. So here we are, we're living in this house, and she's doing some other kinds of jobs. I can't remember what kind of jobs she was doing. She worked at some kind of restaurant for a little while, I think, or she did odd jobs, different odd jobs. And she was going to Cortiva and stuff because she had to make money, and I was working at Aldi's. I did work at Aldi's, and it wasn't making as much money as I wanted it to make, as much as we really needed, but I was trying my best, just trying my best. And it's very stressful, right? It's a whole new situation. Like, bam, you have a quote wife. We're not married, but we basically have a wife and kids suddenly. Suddenly I have a wife and 3 kids. And I'm like, whoa, I wasn't ready for that. But here I was saying yes, so kind of had to be ready, right? So doing that and working at Aldi's, and it starts getting to this point where I just feel like I am trying, and I struggled at Aldi's. I had a hard time at Aldi's. It was not seamless. It was not easy. It was not what I thought it would be. It was not easy at all. It was actually hard. And I was frustrated by that because I was like, this isn't supposed to be hard. I know how to do this. And they were like, yeah, you do, but we don't want you to do it that way. We want you to do it this way. And I was like, what? You want me to do it that way? That doesn't even make sense. And they're like, yeah, well, that's just the way we do it. And I was like, yeah, but this way's better. And they're like, yeah, but that doesn't work. You have to do it this way. And so I got so frustrated, and I ended up working these really crazy early morning shifts. I was good. I impressed them so much that I exceeded expectations with stocking, et cetera, and work ethic and speed. Because when I first came to that store, I looked at it and I was like, dog, this store could be so much better. And I just give me a chance, bro. Give me a chance. I'm ready to chew on this bone. Let me get a big old bite out of this bone right now. I'll take a big old bite out of this right now and take care of it. I'll get this done. I was so I'm like, bro, put me in. Let me at him. I'm ready. You get that energy. I was like, let's go. I got this. I can do this. And so usually they make you have to be a certain proficiency on the cash register before they take you off and put you on stocking full time or put you on opening shift, which is like stocking the whole time basically during non-regular hours. And but they were like, actually, you are so good, we're going to put you on opening anyway, and you'll just get better at cashier anyway, but you're going to be on opening. And so I started opening, right? And that meant I had to wake up at like 5 o'clock. I had to be there at like 5 or 6 maybe? I had to wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, drive this long drive over this tall 2-lane rickety bridge, crazy tall, steep, crazy bridge every day to work. Just uncomfortable. And the whole situation where we lived and everything about it was like, this is Maryland, but you are literally 2 hours away from your family. They're on the other side of the bay, which is literally a 20-minute boat ride straight across, but you can't go that way. You have to go the 2 hours up and around down road trip to get there to anyone. I felt very discomforted by my location and the isolation. Actually, I felt very isolated. Felt like we were just literally out here, like on a desert island kind of in a lot of ways. And here we are. And her stepmom and her dad live next door, and they're cool. Her dad's kind of interesting. He's Irish too, and the stepmom was cool. I liked the stepmom a lot. I got along with her a lot. She was cool. I could dig her a lot. And I met her sister as well, and she was cool too. She was bubbly and everything, and they had this potential to get into trouble together, the two of them. And I was just like, you guys are funny and everything, what you guys be drinking and stuff. I don't know. I don't know. And then there was her uncle, who was our landlord, this guy named Herschel. And he lived a couple houses down. It was 3 houses. His all the way down, her dad and stepmom's in the middle, and then ours when you first pull in. And typically he would rent the house out to people who worked at the local power plant, which is where he worked. He rent the house out to workers, short-term basis, because they're whatever in between. When they first start working, they get a house and live there. They pay for a room and live there until they get their own place to live. But he was doing a favor to us and just renting it to us as a whole time deal. He had guaranteed money on that house, But with us, it was, well, he was supposed to have guaranteed money as well. But we struggled. We struggled with money. We struggled with paying the rent. We struggled with keeping up the yard. We struggled with everything, honestly. We struggled with everything, literally. This was a trial and a half. It was not easy, to say the freaking least. This was insane, actually. It was like, hey, where should we go? Oh, I think we should go there. What do you think? I think we should. Okay. Well, that's where we're going. We're going there. Oh, okay. It was like that. So it was like, it wasn't like, okay, that's definitely where we should go. We both agree, full harmony. Everything was kind of like, okay, I guess that's where we're going. Okay, this makes sense. Okay, sounds good. Okay, okay. Push comes to shove, and we're there. And it is just a massive struggle. My job at Aldi's is a massive struggle. I was kicking against the pricks, as they say, which is like basically kicking a cactus. How fun is that, right? Kicking a cactus? Lots of fun, right? And so, yeah, terrible time, right? Terrible time. And, let's see. So, all that's going on, and I'm working this opening shift, working super early in the morning, and just struggling, and she's struggling, and she's frustrated, and she's angry a lot of the time, and she is frustrated with me because I'm not doing enough, or I'm not contributing enough, or I'm not spending enough time with the family. But I was struggling because I felt very unloved, and I felt very pushed away. I felt very forgotten. I felt very unappreciated. I felt very unloved. And so what did I do? I spent a lot of time by myself. And I spent a lot of time by myself in the basement. I had a little table down there. I had my computer. I had all my stuff. I would sit down there and watch hockey, do the lawn. It was a weird dynamic with me and her, because no matter what I tried to do to help, it never really seemed like it was enough. She had such a strong work ethic as it was, and such a strong, I'm the provider, I'm the man, that she had a hard time letting anyone else help her, which I totally get and understand. But it was just a struggle. And so I really started struggling at this job with Aldi's, and there was a crystal store nearby called Inner Equinox, which was pretty cool. And of course I was all up in there, and I met the owner, and she was really cool, and talked to her and everything. And stuff's starting to happen eventually where I'm getting really frustrated with Aldi's, and I'm just like kind of at my wit's end a little bit. And I talked to her. Oh yeah, I forgot. I got hurt on the job at Aldi's. I injured the front of my shin, the muscle above my ankle above the front of my foot, where your hinge of your foot and your leg meet, right where your foot bends there, your ankle, the muscle in front of there. And I injured it by walking too hard. I was walking at Aldi's, everything is super high paced, so you have to go invincible speed, impossible speed, all day long, nonstop. But I was like, dude, I got this. I'm a beast. This is what I do. This is how I roll. I'm a beast. I just do this. This is how I be. I do this, you know? And so I was walking hard, and they make you wear steel toe shoes, so the shoes are not comfortable. Steel toe boots, big old clunky, fat, awkward, hard to walk in, unfeasible to walk fast in shoes. Yet I felt like I constantly had to walk fast, because that's the only way you accomplish things. So that's what I was doing, right? And son of a gun, I get hurt. And I'm not like, and I'm honest about it, and I'm very matter of fact about it, like, yo bro, like this is just how it is though. I'm actually hurt, you know. I ain't milking it, I ain't faking it, I ain't lazy in it, I ain't any of that. But at the same time, did I need a break? You daggone right I needed a break. I needed a break bad. So it was just tough, rough, hard, and rough, and all the way around tough and rough. And so here I am, and I'm trying to figure out how to collect workers' comp. I'm out of work, and for X amount, how long I was, maybe a month. I can't remember how long it was. But when I ended up coming back, I couldn't come back on opening anymore, if I remember. I'm trying to remember how this happened. I don't think that happened. I think I was still on open when I came back. But I come back, and it's just like, back to the grindstone again. Here we are again, trying to do this again, and it's just like so hard. so freaking hard. I hated that. I'll tell you right now, I hated that job. I hated it and I loved it. I loved it because it was familiar. I loved the concept. I loved the stocking. I loved the work. But I hated the methodology. I hated the methodology so freaking bad. I hated the management. I hated the training. I hated the way they ran things. I hated the systems. I hated it, hated it, hated it, hated it. And you can sit here and try to tell me that if you're a cashier who sits in a chair, that makes it better. You can tell me that all day, and I will sit here and look at you with a straight face and say, you are out of your mind. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in a chair. It is not easy. It's not fun. It's not cool. It's not okay. It's not fun. It's not cool. It's not okay. It's not fun. It's not cool. It's not okay. Period. I could say it again. It's not fun. It's not cool. It's not okay. It wasn't any of those things for me. It was a nightmare for me. I struggled so bad, and I tried so hard, and I gave so much, and I had so little to actually give. But now I had new pressures because I had this girlfriend who was kind of like a wife and 3 kids to help support. I obviously couldn't let her do all the work, not to mention she's trying to accomplish her dreams. Can you smell the stress on my breath right now? Can you smell the stress? Give me a break. Nightmare. And there was no love. I mean, I'm not going to say there was no love, but I'm just going to be honest from what I felt at the time. There was no love. There was no joy. There was no happiness in our lives. It was literally a nightmare every single day. Coming home, I felt far away. I felt unloved, unappreciated, uncared for every single freaking day. It felt like no matter what I did, it wasn't good enough. No matter how hard I tried, it wasn't good enough. No matter what I did, it wasn't appreciated. Nothing I did mattered, is how it felt. And that's freaking horrible. So talk about dreams. She's doing her dreams, right? She actually took a break from it. I think I'm trying to remember how this went. I think she quit the program, actually. I don't think she went through with it. Something like that. Or maybe she got really close or something, but she dropped out. She got really close and then dropped out because she was like, I gotta go to work. And she went back. I was like, no, don't give up. Don't do it. Don't give up. She's like, I don't have a choice. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so freaking frustrating, you know? It's like, why isn't anything working out? Well, nothing's working out because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to be living with a girl. Not to mention she's 12 years older than you. Like, what? Come on. And afterwards, after living this little bit of life, and since then, a lot of people have been like, well, that's not too crazy. You know, she's older than you, but, you know, it's not too crazy. But here's the thing. It was crazy. It was crazy because it was just like, she was not my age. I am mature, but it was just like, there was just something about, she's a Sagittarius and I'm a Taurus. And my mom's a Sagittarius and I'm a Taurus. And a lot of things my mom does, they don't make sense to me. Every action she does, every word that she speaks, when I see it happen in front of me and I comprehend it and process it in real time, it always feels like, what the heck? That doesn't make any sense. It's like, why would you do that? That seems so irrational. Why would you do that? So here I am in love with one and trying to deal with that, right? And yes, we have understandings and we're talking about things and everything like that, but it was just a nightmare. So I come back to Aldi's from the injury and nightmare. She's all stressed out and she's working these crazy jobs, stressing out, and I'm feeling all this pressure and dissatisfaction and just unhappiness. And she stopped sleeping in the bed with me, and it's because, according to her, she had a reason, but it was also technically an excuse, but it was also one of those things where it was like, it killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Her daughter, the young one, who I really liked and really, I really liked her. Like, she was really awesome. Like, not romantically, of course. That's weird, and that's not what I mean. but I liked her because she was really awesome, and we could talk, and we seemed to get along and understand. And her mom drove her crazy too, and she drove her mom crazy, but I got along with her pretty well. She was a little crazy sometimes, and she did do some crazy things sometimes, but still, she was really cool, and we could get along, and we did have some understandings, and we would go on scooter rides and things like that and just have fun, and just like, it was cool. Well, apparently she had a really hard time with dreams and sleep and all kinds of things messing with her, spirits, demons, whatever, all these problems that we were dealing with. And so she would go up there and sleep with her in her bed, try to calm her down, do Reiki on her head, trying to help her to relax and calm down and sleep good so that she could go to sleep. But then she would stay up there, and then she would spend the whole night there. And so I would sleep alone every night. And I'm talking about, this was so lonely, so frustrating, all these things, you know. Try to talk to her, and when she did come down there, and I would like rub her back or something like that to try to show her some affection, if I ever touched her at all or tried to show any affection, she would always shrug me off and say, "Oh, I'm hurting. And she had lupus, so she had like, I don't even know what that's like, just like a lot of skin pain and burning and sensations and stuff like that. But every time I was like, no matter what I did, I couldn't touch her, I couldn't be close to her, I couldn't love her, basically. I couldn't love her. Like, I did not know how to show her love anymore. Because I was so frustrated and empty. Like, I didn't have anything left to give ever. And when I did, I tried to give it, and it didn't work. It got denied. It got destroyed immediately before it was ever received. So talking about dreams, following dreams, I started doing this thing. I started making these things, these pyramids, out of plastic, out of like a liquid resin. And a lot of people would call this a hobby or whatever, but to me this wasn't a hobby. This was more than a hobby. This was a life calling. These things were called orgonite. That's what it's called. It's called orgonite. You make this plastic resin, and you put stones in them, and you put little metal fragments in there, little clips of copper sponge, or little shavings, metal shavings. And when the resin cures, it's supposed to do this thing where it creates, it's called the piezoelectric effect. There's a quartz crystal inside the hardened resin, and there's other stones in there, so it contains organic and inorganic items in there. And so the plastic cures and squeezes all the things, and things like stones and quartz crystals, they have their own vibration, and the energy from the vibration being squeezed by the resin will cause this effect called the piezoelectric effect. And basically what these things would do was, what they were supposed to do was they would create positive energy. Now, what is positive energy? Well, good question. But what is it? What kind of energy is it that these things create? Well, apparently they're supposed to create chi energy, aka prana, aka life force energy, aka orgone energy, orgone energy, chi, prana. And the way I explained it is like, if you think about an old closet that is like closed down and there's nothing in there, it doesn't have any fresh air, it's stale, stagnant, it's got an abandoned room, right? It's nobody goes in there, it doesn't have any fresh air, it's dead, it's draft. There's you know what I mean? There's like cobwebs, dead energy. That kind of room has no prana. It doesn't have really good chi, or doesn't have really good orgone energy in there. All those words mean the same thing. It doesn't have any of that in there. Now think of a room that has plants, has fresh air, there's running water somewhere, and there's life, and there's just, you can feel it. That has more chi in it. Chi is the life-giving energy. It's the energy that sustains and supports. And it's a life force energy. It's like good energy. It's like healthy energy. And I started making this orgonite, and it was kind of like a experiment as well. And I made this thing, and there's like this theories about like, oh yeah, if you put it in the soil, your plants will live better and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, okay. So I'm experimenting, right? Well, I get this flower, and it dies, but it's like still alive. But I take it inside, it's like a geranium or something, It's wintertime, right? And this thing is inside the house and I'm watering it and it's getting sunlight through the window, but it's wintertime, the sucker ain't blooming, there ain't any flowers on it. I took some organite, I put it in the soil and continued to do what I did, and you know what started happening? It started growing, it started blooming. And so part of it might have been belief, I don't know. But anyway, there's all of that. Theoretical, these thoughts. And so apparently I'm making these organite pyramids that are supposed to pump out orgone energy, and it's supposed to help you sleep better, it's supposed to make you feel better, it's supposed to put out good vibes. And this is something that you guys are probably not going to believe. You might think I'm crazy, and I did go a little crazy while doing this, but I'm not crazy, and I'm not... When this was happening, I was sober. That sounds horrible, but I was sober-minded, and I can tell you these things. I'm not exaggerating. This actually happened. So apparently, these pyramids, these organite things, there was a whole science behind it, and the guy who discovered orgone energy was this guy named Wilhelm Reich, and he was actually arrested and accused of all these crimes because they were saying he was a pervert and studying, just trying to get off on people and stuff. Because his study, the way he figured out what orgone energy was it was the study of this energy, and he figured out that it was created when people have sex. And so he did experiments. He wasn't a pervert, but he did these experiments that involved people measuring pleasure and things like that while having sex and stuff like that, and measuring this energy. And he figured out that it existed, and then he figured out how to create it. And he made these things called orgone chambers. It was like a little room you'd sit in. It was like the size of a refrigerator, big enough for a person to put a metal chair inside and sit in it and close the door. And the walls of this orgone chamber were made up of alternating layers of organic and inorganic material. And what would happen was it would draw energy in, the good orgone, life-giving energy would draw it in, and it would concentrate it in there. And everyone who sat in there, it would cure depression, it would cure all kinds of things. It would even help alleviate people who had cancer and stuff. It was all of this. It was this groundbreaking through revelation of scientific groundbreakingness, you know. And he got shut down and accused. He had a whole institute and several students. It was a wonderful, huge institute. He was a brilliant man and all this stuff. And he got accused and they shut him down. I always knew that he wasn't the things that they tried to say about him. And they tore him down and made him burn all his books, destroy all of his stuff. And the other thing was, he made this thing called a cloud buster. And it was built on the same principle of orgone energy. And it was like these big tubes that were on a rolling cart. And what would happen was, he figured out that he could control the weather. This sounds insane. I told you guys would think I'm crazy. But it was like he could control the weather. He could control things like that, or affect things. And he tested it out. And it worked. You know why? There's a drought. And people's crops were dying. And all this stuff. They're losing all their crops. Everything was dying. There's no rain. So he brought the cloud buster out there. And it attracted clouds, and it produced rain. And the rain came, and it rejuvenated the crops. And he was arrested. And all his stuff was destroyed. And he died in prison. So it's a terrible tragedy, and it was a total unrealized thing. And such a lost discovery, basically. Well, people later on took his technology, and they decided to put a quartz crystal in the thing with resin and stuff like that, and that's what orgonite is. And so this whole thing with orgonite was, and this part again where you think I might be crazy, and I realized it was actually true. These things were actually creating some kind of energy, and I don't know how long it lasted. I think sometimes they kind of only lasted for a certain amount of time, because I always felt like it worked for a certain amount of time. Like when I first made them, it seemed awesome, like it was actually working and everything. Then after a while, it felt like they weren't really working, they weren't really doing anything. And so then there's the whole thing of like, is this working? Is it not? Is this illusion? Is this self-deception? Blah, 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 all these things. And so I did not apply the scientific process. I'm just literally a mad scientist on my own, trying to make these orgonite pyramids, trying to affect change and make a big difference, and trying to like live my dream, you know. Well, here's the thing that is going to blow your mind. So I was out there in the yard, right? Because the stuff you use is like this liquid plastic stuff, and you can't use it inside because it has fumes, and it will cause brain damage, and it will just not be good for you because you're inside breathing these freaking chemicals. You can't do that. You have to be in a well-ventilated area, out freaking side. And so that's what I was doing. And when I made these things outside, I bought these molds. And first I started making little ones, and then when I got good at making the little ones, then I started investing and spending more money in materials and making bigger ones. And I made one really big pyramid, like this big and like that tall, and really great size. Put all kinds of crystals in it, and that was the sad part. I put crystals in it, so it was literally creating art at the same time. The sad part was I had these crystals I loved, but when you put them in that resin, they're good. They're gone because now they're used now they're in that resin, and you can't use them for anything else. They're spoken for. They're used. They're in there, and that's fine. But anyway, so I'm using up all my crystal materials, putting them in there, and I made this big pyramid. And dude, this is the crazy part. Okay, when I made these things, I had to figure out how to get good at them and making them like the right way. And I had varying levels of luck with making them, because I could kind of see the energy coming out of them. It's hard to explain, but like they would put out a certain energy. It's literally hard to explain. They would put out this certain energy from them, like a moist energy in the air, kind of. And if they were working, and I can tell you about how I discovered this later. But I was making these pyramids out there in the yard, right? And I was doing it on a really overcast day. And I'm sitting out there in the yard, having a good old time with myself, working on this stuff. And of course, I'm actually planning on having a future in this and making these and selling them as a business and making money and all this stuff. And as my dream, I'm still here at the house with Jen, and you know, she's happy and excited for me, but it only goes so far because life and anger and frustration and impatience and disappointment and all this stuff. Blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting out here in the yard on this overcast day with these pyramids curing in their molds. And when they cured, the clouds changed above me. And that's going to sound funny, like maybe I'm imagining things. Oh, you're just imagining things. It'll just so happen this way. No, it actually... Here's the part where, to me, this is the irrefutable part to me. And again, this is hearsay. Like, you weren't there, so you don't know. You can just take all you have is my word that this is actually what happened. But this is what actually happened. Literally above the area where I made the pyramid, a hole opened up in the sky. A hole opened up in the clouds. Do you hear what I'm saying? The entire sky above me was completely cloud filled, and a circle emerged in one of those clouds. And it opened up, and sunlight was shining through it right directly above where I made that pyramid. And then I started having this theory like, oh wow, these things are actually affecting the clouds. These things are actually affecting the weather. And it was true. They were affecting the weather, at least to some extent. And it was mind-blowing, right? And I even had a period of time, this is where the craziness kind of came in a little bit, because this was mind-blowing, and it was hard to explain to people. And if you share this information, like, what is somebody going to do with it? Like, you know, it's just interesting. Well, I was really frustrated by chemtrails, because I was also a very big conspiracy theorist at the time. But anyway, chemtrails are real. The global geoengineering is real. They do spray chemtrails in the sky to block the sunlight, to affect the weather, to reduce global warming or whatever stupid reason they have. And the planes that fly through the sky and leave trails behind them, people call it contrails, and then it's not chemtrails, it's contrails. They say it's just condensation. No, it's not condensation. It's actually, they are actually spraying chemicals, and it's actually in a whole agenda Planes are rigged up every day, and pilots are paid every day to go up there and do this and spray this all the time. And they spray it directly in front of the sunlight, right at sunset and right at sunrise, to make it so that people can't see the sun at that time. I have a whole theory about this, and you're probably going to think I'm absolutely crazy. But anyway, it is real that the planes do spray stuff like that. It's barium, strontium, aluminum, nanoparticles of metal. It's actually, the streaks you see in the sky is metal. They're spraying nanoparticles of metal in the sky. So let me ask you this. Do you think it's great that they're spraying that into the sky to fall down into the air for us to all breathe? Do you think it's great for us to breathe in nanoparticles of metal? Of course not. Nobody could possibly think that that's good. Of course that's not good. Of course, right? Like, we're already made of plastic because of all the nanoparticles of plastic in the air that we breathe in every day. It's another story. So here I am getting so excited because these... Oh yeah, the other thing was... so not only do these orgonite pyramids push away the clouds, they also seem to be breaking chemtrails. Because I put pyramids out while there was chemtrails, and the trail would break. I saw it happen with my own eyes. I'm talking about a long stream, and then all of a sudden it breaks, and there's a gap. And so I got obsessed with this. Basically, I let it consume me because I didn't have anything else going on, and I was just, frustrated with life, frustrated with everything. Didn't feel like I had a purpose. Very lost, lonely, and empty feeling. So I get obsessed with orgonite, and I'm making all this orgonite, And Jen's just like, okay, well, that's cool and all, but you seem to be like, I don't even know what to tell you. And she was just worn out and busy anyway. But things ended up not working with me and her. They got so frustrating. I, once again, felt so unappreciated and unloved and frustrated. And let me tell you about this really traumatic thing as I am healing my past here. This is a really traumatic thing. This was so freaking horrifying. So our heat stopped working in the house, and there was a heater downstairs in the basement that had oil in it, and we would run out of oil all the time. And we figured out that it was cheaper to buy off-road diesel from the gas station and pour it in manually than to have a guy come in and fill it up with a truck, fill it up with oil. Unfreaking believable. So we would be always going to the store to buy more off-road diesel, filling up these tanks and coming back and dumping them in and all this stuff, and we're afraid to break the system, and Herschel was going to freak out and all this stuff, blah blah blah. Well, anyway, guess what happens one day? All this stuff's happening because we wouldn't have any hot water. Like, we wouldn't have hot water if this problem kept happening. If I cut this this video short. All this stuff happened, right? And guess what? I wake up really early one morning to go to work, and I have this terrible, terrible, terrible feeling. And I walk downstairs, and the worst had happened. Something happened with the water heater, and there was a leak, and it broke. And all of the water, the basement is flooding. And we have belongings down there. We have all our belongings. We have stuff. We have washing machines. We have all of our belongings just there, unpacked. Like, that was where we put a lot of stuff. That was our storage. We didn't have an attic like that. That was our attic. And now there's literally like 6 inches of water in the basement, and the water is still gushing. I had a nervous breakdown because I couldn't comprehend thinking. I couldn't comprehend telling Jen. I couldn't tell her, because if I told her, she was going to be so angry at me. She had the capacity for such anger that I had never beheld. It was like Sith Lord anger. She had the capacity for anger like no one else I had ever known, really. Well, actually, like some others, but have you ever noticed that? Have you ever noticed how some people seem to be able to have more capacity for anger than others? She had a lot of anger. A lot of anger. And I'm talking about not just anger, I'm talking about rage. Like, rage, anger, wrath and anger and rage and stuff, So I just went to work. I literally just went to work. I said, I can't even take this. That's how broke down I was. That's how snapped I was. This was PTSD. I had PTSD from that. And of course, come home and all this stuff's happening, and now we have a big old problem. We have to pump out this water, and she's all angry, of course, and she's frustrated, and blah, 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 and this is my fault somehow, supposedly, blah, 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 all this stuff. So we survived that. Keyword, survive. But again, once again, If you get your leg blown off and you live, you technically survived, right? Yeah. Well, that's what surviving can be like. Terrible, right? It's not living. You're alive, but it's not living. It's surviving. So life was really hard continually, and how much time passed? So we got there in like July of 2018. Yeah. About July of 2018. And I had moved in with her in Easton in like January of 2018. So we lived together there for all this time passed, and it was like a long time. Like a long time. And here we moved there in July, and it is now gotten through the holidays, and it is now the next year. It's now 2019. And it's like May, and I'm feeling so lonely, so sad, so afraid. And I'm just into my own stuff. Oh, and I quit Aldi's, and I started working at Inner Equinox. And it was all fun and games and everything, but it wasn't like, it was very, very low pay. But I actually felt appreciated. I actually felt like I was working somewhere where people loved me. And then Jen was like, oh, well, people love you there. And she's like, that's so good. I'm so glad for you. I'm so happy for you. And I'm like, what? What the heck? What are you even talking about? Like, don't you love me? Like, what the heck? What the heck is this? What the heck is this? When did we stop loving each other? What the heck is this? And it would not make sense. And she told me several times, she's like, you know, you're not happy. You should just leave. You know, I can't do this. You know, she tried breaking up with me several times. And I just would not take no for an answer. I always felt like I had the ability to say, no, I don't want that, so I'm going to stay. And that's what I continued to do. I kept saying, no, I don't want that. I'm going to stay. You know, we need to work this out. Whatever will be fine. I wasn't in denial, but I also was in a way. I was just not letting go, you know? And then one day, she was on my case so bad, so frustrating, and I had car problems. My car wasn't working. It was recalled. I had to get it repaired, had to get a rental car, all this kind of stuff. Or they gave me a vehicle because the car was still in the shop, blah, blah, blah. Terrible, terrible, terrible. All this freaking crap. So much embarrassment, so much frustration, so much just depravity. Total depravity, honestly. It was depravity, really. That's what it felt like. Terrible. I'm just not even going to go into details, but it was so freaking frustrating. So freaking frustrating. And she wouldn't leave me alone one day, and I was like, I just finally snapped and just told her, can you just leave me alone? Can you please just leave me alone? Like, can you please just leave me alone? And she wouldn't. And I was like, I am so freaking done. And I left. I left one day, and I told her, I'm going here with my friend, I'm doing this. I'm hanging out with my friend, I'm doing this. And I basically left it open-ended, like I'm not going to tell you when I'm coming back. And I ended up taking some time. I stayed at a friend's house, which was actually my manager at Equinox, and a really nice lady, a little cuckoo as well, because she was all into the crystals and the metaphysical, and those people are just a little cuckoo sometimes. And not normal is my point. Not normal. There is no normal anymore. Eventually, and or normal's relative, I guess, which that's fair. Normal is relative, but you know what I'm saying. Not normal enough to be considered normal in my book. If that makes sense. Stay there and everything, and I'm gone for like 3 days, and then it ends up being like almost a week, and then I finally talk to her or whatever, come back, and I'm basically like, I'm freaking done. I'm leaving. I'm moving. I'm getting out of here. And she didn't really understand it. And I was like, what the heck don't you understand? What don't you understand? I was like, you wanted me to go. I've been so frustrated. I've just been living here dying. Like, I've been living here in the most unloving environment I've ever been in. And I feel so unloved. I feel so unappreciated. I feel so empty. I feel so forgotten, ignored, and neglected. I feel like, have you ever been around people who make you feel like you don't exist? They don't look at you and say, hey, how are you doing? They just never do. Have you ever been around people like that? Nothing against them, but seriously, when you're around people like that who never ask you how you're doing, they never ask, they never check in. That's what it was like. It got into that point where it was so unbearable, you know? So unbearable. That's why I left. And apparently after that, she never understood why I left, but still, I left. And blah, blah, blah. And I ended up I actually became homeless for a while. I had a really good friend who worked with me at Inner Equinox, and he was actually homeless as well. But it's actually, we were all into the crystals, all into this, all into the spiritual, all into this, all into that, all into this, all into that. And anyway, blah, blah, blah. But fun story, I might be able to get this one in. Fun story before, this is actually significant, so thanks for watching. But fun story before I left her. The friend that was homeless that I worked with, he was a grown man. He was an awesome guy. He was had his stuff together, but he also didn't because he was homeless. He was living a fringe lifestyle, basically. And he lived in his car. But he just walked the earth and just did his thing and just enjoyed life and was just happy, apparently, or had talked himself into being happy, or had convinced himself that he was happy, or whatever. He functioned. And he did a lot of really great things. In a lot of ways, to me, he was an angel. He was an angel in a lot of big ways. God spoke through him to me several times, which was really amazing. Anyway, he talked about being able to heal people and help people with things, help them with their problems. And he put it in such broad, general terms that made it so easy to deal with, if that makes sense. Just so easy. Didn't complicate it with specifications or details. Just made it simple about, the bad people. The bad people want to mess with people sometimes. And the bad people, or bad feelings, whatever they are, they come and mess with you and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he talked to me about that, and I was telling him about Jen. I was telling him about how she had this stuff going on, where I felt like something was going on with her, whether maybe she had some kind of demons that were bothering her that just wouldn't leave her alone. And I was like, I think that's what's going on. It's like, could you talk to her? Could you help her maybe? And I talked to her to make sure it was okay, and she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So John comes over and talks to her, and he was like, hey, you might want to take he had this way of talking in a way that was like, he could say something without saying it. It was like he had a way of saying things without certain people, or certain entities knowing what we were saying. It was weird. Like, hey, so, you might want to take the kids. Yeah, you might want to take the kids to get some ice cream or something like that, right? And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. I was like, okay, so I took the kids to get ice cream, right? And I came back in a couple hours, and they had finished. He had finished talking. He talked to the demons in her, basically. Talked to whatever these things were that were in her, that were bothering her, and talked them into leaving, right? And when I got home and I met Jen and I saw her, I looked at her, and her eyes were clear. She looked at me like a tortured spirit who had been held captive for so long, didn't know what to do, couldn't fathom what she had been through, but she had been there the whole time. And she was like, they're gone. And she just looked at me like the most endearing, deeply appreciative eyes, the most beautiful, pure spirit. I looked at her and it was her, if that makes sense. This is going to blow your mind. But I think it's true that entities and demons or whatever can actually possess people to a certain extent and occupy them and live in them, and yeah, it's really bad. And so these things were gone from her, and she was so clean and clear looking and pure looking, and she looked at me like this. It was her. And I'd seen pictures of her from the past, and she looked so different, but nowadays she just didn't look like that anymore. She looked like she had been through some rough stuff. And she just looked at me with these endearing eyes, and just looked at me like basically crying, and looking into me with these hot eyes, saying just like thank you. And like I don't know where I've been, but I've been here this whole time, and I don't even know. I can't even begin. And it just felt like, oh my gosh, this is salvation. This is everything. This is going to fix everything. This is going to solve everything. I was like, oh my gosh, she's free. Finally, she's here. She's back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And it lasted for about a day, unfortunately. And then she started getting suspicious, and she started saying, "Why did you even bring him here? You didn't even ask me. You didn't even tell me what he was doing. You didn't even tell me what he was doing. You brought your friend over here." And she'd start talking in an accusatory voice, an oppressive, accusatory energy. And all those things that he had gotten to leave had come back. And she had somehow welcomed them back in or whatever. I don't even know what that looks like, but they either came back or whatever. Anyway, things were the way they were before again. And not long after that was when she was on my case, so wouldn't leave me alone, and that's when I left. And if you're following these, remember that moment about him getting those things to leave her, whatever they were, whatever it was, blah, blah, blah. And I also have some information to share in the future, too, that will help clarify this a little bit. But I have to end this video here now because way too far into the video, and I'm tired of talking. My voice is dry and tired, and I need to be done. So, another video, another hour in the books of healing my past, and we have been through some stuff. We've been through some stuff, all right, and it just scratches the surface of what I've really been through. But anyway, and it doesn't just scratch the surface. It actually covers a lot. It actually covers a lot, and it helps a lot. So anyway.